Retro Rivals did a video on 5 games that made them the gamer they are today, and they each did 5, and they said that they would take video responses, and so this is my video response. These are games that are not only very special to me, but really helped the building blocks of making me the gamer I am today. So I want to talk about these games and what I enjoyed about them and why I think, they were a part of why I'm the gamer I am. And I would love this trend to keep going. I know I'm a little bit delayed on the response, but if you guys have a list, I'd like you to do a response as well. I started gaming very young, we're talking 11 months old, and I have the video to prove it, I just need to dig it out. But my very first console was the Nintendo Entertainment System, so you would think that the game that was most influential would be Mario Brothers. But it really wasn't. I wasn't old enough to really comprehend what was going on. Being born in 1991, I wasn't quite there yet. And so it wasn't until later on in my life, and we're still talking pretty young, kindergarten age, where I got my Super Nintendo. And I was playing games like Rocko's Modern Life and Ren and Stimpy and a bunch of other, kind of mediocre titles. But then I also had the big hitters like Super Mario World. But the game I think that influenced me the most as a gamer was Donkey Kong Country on the Super Nintendo. And if you know me at all, that probably wouldn't surprise you. I mean, one of my very first videos I ever made was about Donkey Kong Country. But I have a deep-seated love for platformers, and I think that this is the game that influenced that the most. This game is pretty simple in terms of its storyline. The banana horde has been stolen by King K. Rool, and you have to get it back. And you play between Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong, and Donkey Kong plays a little bit heavy, Diddy Kong's fast and nimble. But this game has really tight controls, you have to learn the levels, it's got beautiful design, the music is uncalled for. And what I mean by that is they made that music way better than they had to. It's such a beautiful put together game. I loved it. Finding the different hidden paths, getting different bonuses and things like that. I mean, this game was just unbelievable. The different character designs, the different bad guys, learning the different levels, going to different worlds. The roller coaster levels are crazy fun, even though there's not a lot of them. Really fun finding the shortcuts to end the level really fast. One of the levels that was the bane of my existence was the snow level. It was the very first one in that world. And the thing about this game is that if you don't, you have to save in the world before, and then you play on until you can get to the next save barrel. And if you keep dying, you revert back to where that save was. And so I just couldn't get past this world. And then every time I die, you'd have to go all the way back to where that save was, and then work your way through again until you could finally get to the save. So even after I finally beat the dreaded level, I had to make it through a couple more to get to the save barrel again. But that's what's so wonderful about retro gaming. It is punishing, but it builds character, and it definitely fostered my love for platformers, and it is a deep-seated love that I truly enjoy. Games like Shantae Half Genie Hero, I don't know if I would have enjoyed that game as much as I do if it wasn't for Donkey Kong Country. And I remember playing with my sisters and being really competitive about it, and even in the future when I was still fairly young, middle school, maybe high school, I played that game so many times that anyone that would challenge me, I would just pummel them. I loved this game. Still do. I probably play it about once to twice a year, and I can't imagine anyone watching this has never played it, but if you haven't, I need you to stop what you're doing right now and go play this game. If you know anything about me, I'm not a really big RPG person, and it's been something I'm slowly building myself into. But technically, my very first RPG, and one that I deeply fell in love with, was at the age of 9 years old, and I know I've mentioned this numerous times, of my 9th birthday getting my Kiwi Green Game Boy Color and a copy of Pokémon Yellow Special Edition. Now, I would say this is not my favorite version of the Pokemon games. In fact, I think I enjoy Pokemon Red the most, with no reasoning behind it other than I just enjoy it very much. But when I was 9, I got Pokemon Yellow, and this was Pokemania, all over the place. The toys were at Burger King, the movies were coming out, the TV series, it was just pandemonium. And I would non-stop play this game on the bus. Any chance I got, road trips, and all my classmates were playing it, and it was just a craze that you just had to be there for. But it was my very first, technically, RPG, although I didn't view it as that at the time, because I don't think it's as intensive and involved as other games like Final Fantasy and Chrono Trigger. So I didn't really get exposed to a lot of those things, but it was my introduction to that. Now, in a way, I would say, it heavily influenced me not only to keep up with the Pokemon, like, fanatic type things, where I was playing all of them up until probably the 3DS, and then I kind of fell off, but it deeply influenced my love for grinding and leveling up, which I know is in a lot of RPGs, and so there's a lot of them I've been trying to give a shot, and I think I'm finally starting to find what I'm enjoying with RPGs and trying them a little bit more. So hopefully I could talk a little bit more about that in the future. And if for some reason you never played Pokemon Yellow, which I would say it's considered to be pretty outdated, so if you're somebody who's a little bit younger, not that that's my general audience. I mean, Pokemon Special Edition, what made it different was that your starter would be a Pikachu instead of the typical 3 Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle. So you didn't get to have a choice. And then when you got the Pikachu, he's in a nasty mood. He doesn't like you, and he follows you throughout the game. He doesn't like being in his Pokeball. And this game, I think, closely resembled the series. Not like closely, but I would say closer than like Red and Blue. I think they were trying to get something that matched up a little bit more with the TV series since everything took off. But, the game, you go through it, you have to get your 8 badges, you want to get through the Pokemon League, Team Rocket is there. I mean, if you know anything about Pokemon, it's pretty much the typical storyline. But I loved the music, I loved exploring the different towns, collecting different Pokemon, learning about types, and of course back then, Psychic was completely overpowered. Did I know that? No. Was Kadabra one of my favorite? Yes, so that worked out in my favor. But I am very, very nostalgic for it. And I would say that this particular title didn't really directly influence me into anything else, but it did kind of concrete my love for handheld gaming. And like I said, continuing on with the Pokemon series. So when I was thinking about my list, this one I think easily came up, and I think it will surprise you. So I think one of the most influential games of making me the gamer I am today was The Sims. And I'm not talking about the GameCube Sims. I'm talking about the OG Windows 98 PC Sims. I was probably one of the lucky kids, and we did have a computer in our house. Now it would be the family computer, but it was my first introduction to PC gaming. And I do this because I didn't really do anything hardcore with it. But I remember when I first started playing The Sims, and it took me a long time to figure out that Sims meant simulator, but it's a life simulator. And so you're playing as different Sims. You have to earn money, build up houses, get a job. And I loved being able to customize and build my own house, and eventually learning cheat codes to be able to get money so that you didn't have to go to those stupid jobs and make your Sim not sleep and then pee himself and all this other stuff. And of course it woke into our inner psycho, where we would have our Sims cook if they didn't have the skill set, and they'd set a fire and you would just set the walls and close in, or maybe that was just me. But in any case, The Sims was one of my first experiences kind of gaming on a PC that wasn't something like the pinball stuff. And so I think, and it's kind of weird because it doesn't seem like they'd be related, but I think that kind of opened my eyes to different things, and I started playing things like Age of Empires 2. I loved knights and things like that, and so getting experience using the computer as a gaming device and then realizing that there is that game available, I was playing Age of Empires a lot. Did I play it the way it was supposed to be played? Probably not. I think I did a lot of campaigns where you got to keep it going as long as you didn't go collect all the relics or something, then you could just keep building up your stuff. And I did that probably more than anything, but I enjoyed my time with it. And I think The Sims really opened my eyes to different things like that. With simulators, we're talking about Animal Crossing and Harvest Moon, and it goes so much wider than that. And I definitely played Animal Crossing and Harvest Moon on the GameCube when it first came out, when people weren't really talking about those games very much, and I enjoyed every second of it. I love those games. They're the nice, cozy titles. And although I wouldn't consider myself to be a cozy gamer, I think if it wasn't for The Sims, I wouldn't be open to playing those titles. I've definitely talked about this game in the past as well, and honestly, I don't feel bad about it. These games are really important to me. And I wanted to go with something a little bit more modern, because the games that made you the gamer you are today are not just games that you played with as a kid. There are games that you find throughout your life that made a big altering difference in how you perceive gaming or what you choose to play in the future. I waited for this game for probably like 3 to 4 hours on the floor at Walmart, but it was also the time that I was buying the Nintendo Switch in 2016. So Breath of the Wild, this game completely blew me out of the water. I didn't know what to expect. I'm going to be the first to admit I wasn't the biggest Zelda fan. Like, I played a few of them. I beat Ocarina of Time, but I wasn't one of those people that was like deeply in love with the Zelda games. And so I might have purchased this game mildly because of the hype behind it and what I saw in the trailers, although I didn't know much about it, but also because it was one of the very few games that even released with the console. And when I started playing it, and I stayed up pretty late to make sure everything updated, I woke up the next day and I was completely blown away. It was one of the first open world games where I really felt like I could dive into it. I wasn't somebody who was really big into Skyrim, and I would consider a lot of other games that I've played not to really be open world. Like, they're open world-esque, but not to the degree this was, where you had that amount of freedom, where you could just go and beat the game if you wanted to. You can go explore different shrines. You can collect Korok seeds, and it was just so different than what I was used to, and it opened my eyes to things and different games that I could potentially dive into. I mean, I think Red Dead Redemption is considered to be a pretty open world. I guess even Grand Theft Auto, which I'd played before, but it never really clicked with me like it did with this game. And I wasn't somebody who loved dumping hours and hours into a video game. I like games that are not terribly long, but this game, I didn't care. I just wanted to explore, and I didn't care about 100%ing it either, but I dumped a lot of hours into it, going to the different like guardians and getting the spirits and then beating Ganon and getting his level or his health cut down in half. I mean, this game, I hope you can see it in my face and hear it in my voice, but it was definitely mind-blowing, and I think Nintendo hit that so far out of the park that I was just so excited to see what would come out next. And last on my list, and I know this is an obvious one, Jen probably already called it from the beginning, Fable 2. I bring this one up a lot as well. Again, something that happened a little bit later on in life, not as late as Breath of the Wild, obviously, but it was a game that I had never really dived into, like an RPG-esque game, with the exception of like Pokemon. And the concept of being good or evil was mind-blowing to me, if we're being honest. I couldn't believe that you could make your own choices and choose to steal and kill and do all these things, and it would alter your appearance and it would affect how people saw you in the world. And that was something that was very new to me. And so when I was watching, at the time, my boyfriend, now husband, playing, he was being the good guy. And I was like, steal that, do this, do that. And he wouldn't. I was like, you know what? I got to start my own file. And so my very first playthrough, I played evil. I was stealing and killing everything. I went to the Crucible, didn't have any food, ate a bunch of pie, got really fat, shaved my head, had horns. I was one ugly mother. And it was so much fun. When you're evil, you can feed chicks to you have to eat chicks in front of a guy to get into this cult where you lure people in to have them murdered and stuff like that. And I love this game so much. I played it through multiple times. I think I do favor doing the good route versus the bad route, but it's just so unbelievably mind-blowing that you can play this game and it changes how people around you behave. And you can buy real estate, and you can raise and lower the rent, and there's just a bunch of different little jobs that you can do. And the story was very entertaining. I thought it was a very, very fun game. If you've never played it, it's a very cheap pickup for the Xbox 360. I think that's the only thing you can get it on, but I think it is totally worth a playthrough. I know that Jen played through it, and I don't know exactly how she felt about it. I remember she said it in a video, but I think it is worth a playthrough. And it was just something that opened my mind to the possibility of games like Overlord, which I didn't pick up until recently, and things like that where instead of being the hero, you're the bad guy. And that's not something that ever crossed my mind before. So that was something that really opened my eyes. And if you're interested in playing Fable, the main storyline is this guy is basically thinking that you're one of the 4 heroes that can stop him from doing his plan, which is building this spire, and it's like this big evil plan, and you basically have to stop him, and you have to basically go out and collect the other heroes because, in theory, you died. And you all have to band together to try to stop him, but there is a lot of side quests and side things to do along the way, and I again, would deeply recommend this one. So those are the 5 games that made me the gamer I am today. Now this list is probably interchangeable. I could make this list in a year, I could make it probably in 2 months, and it would probably change because there's a lot of games that influenced me growing up. I mean, Need for Speed Most Wanted made me really enjoy racing games, which I had never done before. There, I'm recently starting to dive more into RPGs, like I said, so Mario RPG, Sea of Stars, I'm starting, my love for games is starting to evolve, and it always will be, and so this list will be ever changing, but for now, those are the 5 games I've come up with. Thank you, Scott and Jen, for creating this topic and putting out a tag. I really enjoyed thinking about what games really made me the gamer I am today. And I hope you all who are watching this enjoyed that list, and let me know in the comments down below what games made your list, or if we have some games that match up, and let me know why. But thank you guys so much for watching, and don't forget, a pixelated world awaits.